Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for Coach George Novak for joining us for the first 40 minutes of this show. He's going to be a co-host throughout the year. We're going to be using him for special segments to give that coach's perspective. But at this time, we spent the offseason talking to coaches, watching players, studying teams, digging into what makes the WPIAL football landscape so special. It's time to do it.
Oh, it's the fun part.
Let's break it down.
Let's get into the thick of it.
Buckle up because the road to Acrisure Stadium starts now. I guess we'll start it like this. New stars to emerge. Who do you think is going to emerge on the scene this year as a new star in Western Pennsylvania that hasn't made their mark quite yet?
I think we have, and I think he gets overshadowed a lot, Elvis Bethea, offensive guard over at Pittsburgh Central Catholic.
Yes, sir.
He's playing with multiple powerful offensive linemen, and I think for him to prove himself is going to be pretty tough. I've seen this kid the past 2 years just compete on a national stage. I'll tell you one thing, he's not going to be the wink link out of those Five Eyes out there. 2029 kid, about 6'5", a little over 300 pounds, and he's going to be a force. And I think as the years go on, we're going to start to talk about him as one of the best offensive linemen in the WPIAL.
Absolutely. And for me, we talked about him last week. Amari Marshall, I want to talk about him one more time. He was a great player last year, but this year at Montour, I think he's going to emerge as a star out there. And when I mean a star, I think at defensive back position, he's going to pick up multiple Division I offers. And that's my guy that's going to emerge into that star role. I can't, there's not too many other guys that I see becoming a star. I think there's going to be some guys that become great players, but I'm talking like 3-star, 4-star level, kind of the rise that some of these other guys had throughout the years. There's late rises. I think Amari Marshall, by the time his junior season, he's going to be a 3-4 star. So I think he breaks on the scene this year, his sophomore season, and becomes a real star.
I'm going to take it to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going Kiski Prep.
Ooh.
Ryan Chambers, defensive lineman, 2029. He had a really good camp season this year in the offseason. Picked up Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia. Kid's really quick off the ball. I talked to a couple of players who were on that team last year with him and said that he really could play, and he's another young stud. He's the first of that 29 class, lineman-wise, to pick up the big three regional offers at Penn State, Pitt, and West Virginia, which means he is the real deal. So I think now that he's kind of set the stage for himself, I'm really excited to see what he does with this year, and I expect some big things out of him.
Malik McLeod, Woodland Hills. Look, I think he has a chance to be special this year. Scoop's out of the way, Cam's out of the way, Ziggy's out of the way. He's the running back. He kind of could do everything. He's a physical player. He's hard to take down, and I think Woodland Hills is going to need a guy like that to step up this year to get into the playoffs. I think Malik McLeod is a guy that's going to make a big statement and become a star in the WPIAL this year.
I think he's going to be a big deal because that quarterback they have over there, was his last name? McKinney.
He is good. Let's wait till the games, but from what I've seen, I think he's going to be good.
I know what I've seen. The kid can throw the ball. The kid, he has a good build to him, and I've seen him develop over the last couple of years. So I think that's going to be a good 1-2 punch in the backfield for Woodland Hills. The next one I got is Gianna Keys out of Steel Valley. I know he's a quarterback, highly recruited as a linebacker and edge guy. He has the build. He has the frame. He's really quick off the edge. I know he picked up a couple sacks as a freshman last year playing varsity football. And a lot of the college coaches that I talked to really like him a lot. He's a hard-working kid. I got a chance to see him down at 2 temps, getting some work in. I think he's an edge guy who we're kind of not prepared to see yet, but he's a guy over the next couple of years we can see at the top of that 2029 list as the years go on.
At Newcastle, running back Jermaine Jackson. I was there yesterday morning, and both running backs, Maurice too. Maurice Moore, both those guys, they put on a lot of weight. And look, they look good. They're going to have a nice 1-2 punch in that backfield. I think both those two, you got the Marino Grahams, the Kai Cox, even DJ Gordon, but I don't think people are quite ready for what Newcastle's building around those guys. Those younger classes are special. And those two running backs, I think they're going to become a star because so much attention is going to be on Marino Graham from last year. Because if you remember, these freshmen coming into the season, there's no quality tape on them. And I think that's what threw a lot of teams off with Marino. The tape's there, the attention's there. I think that's going to leave the room and the door open for those two running backs to step up and become stars.
Next, I'm going with Amont Struthers, a.k.a. Bun, just transferred into Westinghouse. 3 technique, possibly an edge guy as the years come in. Dante Green is known for turning defensive linemen into absolute monsters there down with the Bulldogs. 6'3", about 260-pound. Kid's super aggressive. Another kid I got to see on the circuit do really well in his age group. His feet are huge, and I think he has. I know he has a Miami of Ohio offer, and I think he has something to say about everybody else. You know, the Adam Barnetts and the Ryan Chambers getting all the love in the 29 class. I think he's going to put his name in the hat coming this season, and for the next couple of years, it's going to be tough to keep him out of that number 1 spot.
Those were all of my guys. So, do you have another guy, or do you want me to move on?
I got one more for you.
Go ahead.
I got one more for you, and I'm taking it down to the 2030. Jameer Eggleston
Here
out
we
of
go.
Moon High School. I said it earlier this year. I've gotten multiple calls about this kid last year, multiple calls in one day about this kid every week. Played for Stowe Rocks last year, Moon High School. Going to be a left tackle. I know they're going to slip him in a little bit at nose guard. He was the youngest guy in the national circuit, 13 years old. I've seen him compete against some of the best guys in the nation. I'm talking about 4-star guys, 5-star guys, and he held his own. Did very well, about 6'4". Looked like he leaned out a little bit. I just seen him this weekend, probably looks in around 300, 315. He is one of the best offensive line prospects that I've seen at his age. Like I said, I met him at 13 years old in 8th grade. The kid can run, he can move, he can jump, he can play basketball very well. Really good with his hands, looked really good at the 150. I think if it wasn't for Elvis Bethea's performance, I think Jameer Eggleston would have taken it as a freshman last year, or incoming freshman last year. But I think that this kid's going to be a blue chip offensive lineman here in the WPIAL, and one of the best we've seen in a long time.
This is one that you want to attack, so I want to ask it now. What player has the most to gain this year?
The player that has the most to gain, I have 2 of them. I'm going to start with the biggest one. I think that player is Adam Barnett. Adam Barnett, I think, has came on the scene early as a freshman, got some good quality time last year. Again, has been big on the circuit. And when you talk about most to gain, I think when you look at the schedule, to be a sophomore who's already gotten 10, 12 games under his belt, and I think that Central Catholic game is going to be the biggest game of his career. He goes out there, if he can make a couple plays, if he can slow the run down a little bit, possibly get himself a sack, I think he has an opportunity to blow up, to turn himself into a blue chip and a national recruit. The kid has the skill. You know he's going to grow into his body and still has some development to do. But I think when you talk about the player with the most to gain, I think he has the most to gain this year, and this could be a big make or break year for him. And from there, we just continue to see the kid grow, and I'm excited to see what comes of him.
We talked about him last week. Tyler Hatton, West Allegheny, has the size, has the attributes.
I like that one, actually. That's a good one.
And for me, you know, he had the early recruitment, and I was involved in his recruitment early. It took off. He dealt with the injuries, but I think he's in the perfect spot right now.
Yeah.
Bob Palco comes back, and, you know, from what I'm hearing, the energy, the culture, it's back over there. He knows how to use them. They knows how to use a tight end. He's also going to come off the edge defensively and help them out a lot. Tyler Hatton, I think he's one of those guys. You know, I didn't want to put him in the stars to emerge because he's been around, and I don't think that would be fair. I think he has the most to gain because I think he has the potential to be a guy that Pitt might go after, you know, just with that size, that athletic ability. One of those late recruits they try to get out of the WPIAL that you and I have been talking about. If he has the season we know he can have, I think that can happen for him. That's why I think he has the most to gain.
I have one more for you, and if I butcher the name, guys, please let me know. I'm going to tell everybody, don't let me mess your name up. Please correct me. Nate Saracion out of Bethel Park. Defensive end. I think he has a Miami of Ohio offer. The more I watch his film, the more I fall in love. The more I watch the guys from Bethel Park, I'm going to tell you right now, the more I fall in love with that team. But the kid is really lanky off the edge. He has a great get off. You can see he works with his hands really well, and he's just super athletic. I believe he's a wide receiver too. He might be a tight end for them over there, which is a prototype that you're starting to see a lot in high school football, at a good rush ends. But I think he is in the 2028 class. I do have him in my top. I'm going to spoil a little bit. I have him in my top 10 for defensive linemen in the 2028 class. But I think he's a kid who have the most to gain, and I'm saying that, I mean, he's going to get some MAC offers. I wouldn't be surprised to see some Big Ten schools jump into the picture as this year goes on. All
right. Which team do you think makes the biggest jump from last season into 2026?
Where we start? We start 1A up, or how do you? I'm going to let you go first on this one so I know kind of where to go. Because I got a big one. I'm going to make a couple people mad, but
let's
I got
go
a big
6A.
We'll go 6A first.
6A. I personally think Cannon Mac's going to make a jump this year. I don't know if they knock off Central. I don't think they knock off Central. I know that. I don't think they knock off North Allegheny, but I think they're going to solidify that third spot. I mean, they got some studs out there. Ty Jansma's now, I think, a 3-year starter at quarterback. Braden Collins, Eastern Michigan offer. Winfield's still there. They got some guys there, and I think 6A, 1, 2, top heavy, but I think 3, someone needs to establish that spot. Year in and year out, it's been different. I think Mac has the ability to do that this year, but I think this is the year to do it because I don't know how much is coming up after that. But let me ask you about 6A. Who has the chances to emerge?
I think 6A the most to gain, and when we're talking about most to gain, I think I've been very, very apparent about. I think Pittsburgh Central Catholic is going to take home 6A.
Yeah.
I think North Allegheny has the most to gain. I know they have some young pieces, and I think this is going to be a year where those young pieces build the confidence, where they start to get the reps in, where you start to get team cohesion to see what Central comes with next year, and they have a possibility, I think, to win 6A next year, depending on how that team looks. But I think they have the most to gain because it's just like a lot of repetition and just the cohesion. WPIAL championship teams, for the most part, take more than 1 year to build. You know what I mean? It's a 2, 3, 4 year process at sometimes. And I think this team, the 29, 28 class, can be in the process in the middle of one of those years and building themselves to get themselves back up to that 6A spot. So I think that as far as 6A, I think that that team has the most to gain. And in saying that, I mean, I know they're not thinking that way. I know they're thinking WPIAL championship or bust. But if they can make one of those two games close within 6 points, I'll say either within 10 points, I think Central Catholic's going to have a lot on their hands next year for them.
For 5A, I think the team that's going to surprise people this year is Upper St. Clair.
Oh, I was going to say it.
And, I'm not going to get in. I don't want to reveal anything on your end, but I know you're high on those guys. And look, Ryan Robbins up front, moving mountains. John Banbury is a bad man. He sets the tone night in and night out. The same way that Roman Thompson does for Central Catholic, John Banbury does that for Upper St. Clair. And in the game of football, I'm big on tone setters. From the opening whistle, a guy that lets you know, like, we're here all night. And that's what Upper St. Clair has. They have a bunch of gritty dogs, well coached by Coach Junko, legend in the WPIAL. I mean, they got some gritty dogs over there, man.
Yeah. For me, the team with the biggest jump is also Upper St. Clair. Right now, I love their front seven on both sides of the ball. Like you said, you got Ryan Robbins, you got Nate Stool, John Banbury's out there. I mean, he's out there smacking dudes and running the ball heavily. I think that front seven is what WPIAL championship front seven looks like. Got to remember, November, December starts to get cold out here. So I think they can make the biggest jump. One team I don't want to leave out of it, though, is Bethel Park. I think they put their name in the hat.
Yep,
and like I said, I think matchup-wise in 5A, I think they could possibly match up the best. I'm curious to see what the interior guys look like for that team. Like I said, with Nate Saracion on the edge, and you can move Will Sabados wherever it is, whether he's rushing off the edge, playing the flat. I mean, I'm sure that he could play man, cover deep third. I mean, I'm a big fan of his as well defensively. He's one of my favorite defensive players in the WPIAL right now. I think that's another team that could make a big jump and make sure that they put their name in the hat so we don't forget about them.
100%. 4A, I'll start it here. I think it's no secret. Montour is going to make the biggest jump in 4A. I mean, they're loaded up. We've talked about them last week, so I'm going to not go back into that. But they got a lot of pressure on them now, because there's been a lot of talk online. Newcastle ahead of them, but Newcastle beat them twice last year. So there is a lot of pressure on Montour because you got to feel like at some point they're stacking the deck a little bit in 4A. McKeesport didn't really bring in too many guys. Newcastle, they had some guys come in from those county schools, but Montour loaded up. And that Amari Marshall move was big. Bringing him in my opinion, puts pressure on that program to win right now.
The biggest team to make a jump is going to be McKeesport, and I'm going to take McKeesport. And the big jump for them is winning that WPIAL championship. I think when you look at what they have up front in Powell and Sabila, of course, we all know about Keemon Spell. We all know about Robinson. I think that's a really good 1-2 punch. And then Makai Daniels as well. I think there's a lot of pressure on not only those players, but that the city of McKeesport, that town of McKeesport, especially with all the nonsense that kind of happened this offseason. I think that they have the biggest opportunity to make a jump. And with that jump, that's winning a WPIAL championship and bringing that back to McKeesport and possibly making themselves a state run.
Yeah, man. Let's get into 3A now.
Mm-hmm.
We got teams like Hopewell, Avonworth, Propel, North Catholic. West Mifflin drops back down into 3A. Elizabeth Forward's going to have something to say. There's a lot of good teams in 3A. This is some really good football. Which team is going to surprise you and makes the biggest jump?
I think the team that's going to surprise us and make the biggest jump is going to be Hopewell. I don't think we're going to be too surprised by the quarterback play. I think that Armstrong is going to have one of those just enormous years that we're all going to just enjoy to watch. But I think they're very undervalued up front. I think they have one of the best defensive lines in the WPIAL. Eris Haintos, again, another last name. If I'm messing that up, please correct me, guys. I got Keith Young. You guys know I'm very high on him. I think he's the best two-way player in WPIAL football. And Richard Johns over the end is somebody I know who's a very underrated defensive end who can play, who can get off the ball. I got a chance to see him at Duquesne camp, and he looked awesome. Of course, you got Bruiser out there just carrying the ball and playing in the safety position. So I think they have the biggest opportunity to make a big jump, and I wouldn't be surprised if they knock off one of these teams that we kind of expect to see in the WPIAL championship.
I like that you talk about up front for Hopewell. We're going to find out right away. Playing Avonworth, first game of the year, I believe. Last year when they played Avonworth, up front, those big boys had hands on the hips, 1,000-mile stares. Avonworth removed the soul from them up front. That is going to have to be the biggest jump. The question isn't the quarterback with James Armstrong. You know what you got in Bruiser. They even got some talented wide receivers, and they got some really good role players. It starts up front. The reason why they weren't able to compete with the top teams like Avonworth is just that up front play. It was as simple as that. They got rolled over.
Simply it.
It's
and I have a good piece about Avonworth up front a little later that we'll get into. I'm excited to speak about.
We'll get into that with the contenders.
Absolutely,
the favorites, excuse me. But did I give my 3A team? I'll give it now. It's Hopewell. It has to be Hopewell. I think they're in a situation where you got the top quarterback in the state. You got to win now. I mean, the first time in the playoffs since 2012 last year, you made that step. It's now time to take the biggest step, because when you have the top quarterback in the state, you have to win ball games. That's just my opinion. And you're building around him. Over the last 2 years, they've consistently put pieces in place for them not to just be strong at that quarterback position, but everywhere else. That line up front was young, but they're going to have to come together if they're going to make the jump that we're saying they're going to make.
I agree there.
All right, 2A, we got teams like Bishop Canavan, the favorite, Seton LaSalle. I mean, you got Steel Valley and others. I'll just put it like this. Is Bishop Canavan going to make the biggest jump this year? They got dudes everywhere.
That is who I have for the biggest jump, and I think just from what I know about Rod Steele and any good coach, I think it takes time to bring the culture of your program into there, and I think that this is year 2 of him doing that. Also remember that he did come in late last year.
Yep.
So I think having a full year into the program, bringing his culture in, bringing the guys in. He has 2 of the best, one offensive and defensive linemen in the WPIAL, and Charles Butler, Lemire Wade. He has a ton of skill guys. I know Gavin Lewis is over there, my auntie Mott. Who am I missing? There's the D-back that I like that's over there really
Alex
well.
Kirk?
Yeah, and the other running back as well, the young one.
Naval
Bone, big fan of him.
Naval's
Sorry for
a
minute. Yeah, he is. I think they do. People talk about who is the ones to beat. I think it's hard to say it's not Seton though. You know what I'm saying? So
the ones to beat are Seton. I think Bishop takes the biggest jump there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I think Bishop takes the big
jump.
We'll
get into the favorites.
That's going to be that's going to be a matchup that I'm excited to see, is that Seton Bishop game, and I think we're going to end up seeing those guys play 2 times this season.
All right. And then 1A, it's tough to really analyze 1A in the preseason, but I'm going to try to do my best job. I think Fort Cherry takes a big jump. They lost in the semis last year. It was tough for that program, thinking they were going to make a state run. But they return a lot of seniors people don't know about. Colin Sig's going to be a freshman. And they're going to let him do some things, that typically we talked about. You can't do in 4A, 5A. They're going to let him do some things. Eli Salvini's a solid back. I mean, I think Fort Cherry takes a jump. A lot of people are thinking they fall off. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were the last 3-4 years, but I think it's going to be a surprise where they're at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and say Fort Cherry because they have a SIG. Like you said, they have a lot of returning defensive linemen and offensive linemen there that I like. Big fan of Archie Shattuck. I have him on my list. I have another defensive end whose name is slipping my mind right now that I apologize about, but I think he's going to be one of the best guys in the WPIAL for sure.
Wow. All right. So let's get into the favorites at this time. These are the teams I believe have the best combination of talent, coaching, experience, and championship potential. So I kind of went 1 through 6, and these are like the favorites that I don't think there's any argument here. 6A, Central Catholic. Let's talk about the Vikings. Byron?
Vikings in 6A, I mean, I think they're just the clear favorite. A lot of returning guys. You got Zach Gleason, you got Roman Thompson, you got the big 3 and Jimmy John and James over there. Got a pretty good defensive line coming in. I mean, a couple other pieces. Jordan Ray's over there. Of course, Owen Herrick, we can't forget about him. And I think when we talk about strength, I think it's easy. I think, the offensive line is the biggest strength of that team right now. And we want to talk about where the question is. The question for me, and not so much from the quarterback position, is going to be from the pass game. To see, what wide receivers they have out there. Will it be Max Roman? Will it be Nate Oliver? Will Gleason get on the offensive side of the ball and stuff like that is where I'm really curious. Will it be Chris Black out of the backfield or playing slot? So my question is definitely what they look like in the pass game. I don't think they're going to have to pass too much if they need to. So I think that is where my question is there for Central Catholic, is what that looks like as we get deeper in the playoffs. And then again, I think we've said it in verbatim. I think championship or bust is kind of their mentality.
For me, Central Catholic, I think they're got to be in fine tuning to get to that state championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be the goal this year. If you're going to do it, this is going to be the year. You mean the line's loaded, you got skill positions everywhere, the defense is stacked. If you're going to get a state championship in 6A, I think this is the year for Central Catholic. So I think you see things where they're going to be trying to stay sharp through the entire WPIAL season without mistakes, because when you're not playing as high competition levels, you kind of have to take the standard up a level, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The mistakes, you got to get a little bit pissed off when you're making mistakes that you shouldn't be making, even if you're beating teams by 49. That's how you improve against, non-competitive play. So those are little things that I think Central Catholic will do throughout the season. And, Central's the favorite, 6A, until someone knocks them off. They got a dynasty over there right now.
And one thing, I think this is a very senior-led team. I think I was looking at the offensive line alone. They got over 100 starts in the front five, with a new guy in there and Elvis Bethea and figuring out who the other guy's going to be. So you look at stuff like that. I know when I played, that was a really big thing for us, and how confident our offensive line was how many games, not only did we have to start, but how many starts they have together. And like I said, there's over 100 in the front five alone. Owen Herrick has a season under his belt. Zach Gleason has a couple seasons under his belt. So I think just the veteran aspect of this team is going to help them a lot. And I'm curious, those other teams that are going to be in that state playoffs, how many of them have that veteran cohesion? We know they have the talent out there, but I think when it comes to high school football, having a team that's played a lot of reps together is very important.
All right, let's get into 5A. Biggest game in town on September 11th. These two teams will face off.
Mm-hmm.
Pine Richland will head down to Hazelwood Green, the new Hazelwood, and they will play Pine Richland in a rubber match to decide, who's the best team in the WPIAL, because that's what it comes down to. But let's get into Pine Richland, led by Coach John Ladon, one of the best head coaches in the game. We know about Ubi Strader, 4-year starter, over 4,000 yards passing, over 50 touchdowns in his career. And then Mr. Amazing, Khalil Taylor, 34 touchdowns in the last 2 years, most by any WPIAL player over the last 2 years. It might even be in the state. I just didn't dig that deep.
Mm-hmm.
But they got studs everywhere. How we feeling about Pine?
I like Pine Richland a lot. I like Luke Bernerser, of course, is in my top. I think he's one of the best offensive linemen in the area. You're starting to see him blow up a little bit. Big frame, absolute mauler. Looked really good before his injury last year. My question there is going to be the front seven. I think losing Deja Webb was definitely a big hit. I like the move with Zion Smith coming over there. I'm curious to see where Kylan Taylor fits into the piece of that defense, because that kid's going to have to play some football somewhere.
He's going to get on the field.
Elijah Hill, I think, is going to come down and do some good things for them. And the big question is going to be, what can Ethan Marginski and Adam Barnett do in that front seven to kind of keep things hunkered down? Because, again, they got big games in Central Catholic, and I think they're going to have to see not only some big 5A lines in control, which I think they'll do well, but I think they're going to have to see Upper St. Clair as well.
And I think they got to show they can replace Webb up front.
Absolutely.
I think he was I don't want to say he wasn't appreciated, but guys like that up front playing that nose guard position, the way he was stuffing it, doesn't always get appreciated because he's not getting his many sacks, but there wasn't a lot of room to run inside up front with him in there. So they're going to need that run stopper, because ultimately that's what he was first and foremost.
No, I mean, we're talking about an all-state defensive lineman. I think he was the
guy.
I'll go back and forth with you about Lincoln Hogan's probably the only argument I take, but I think he was the best two-way guy last year that they had out there. I had an opportunity to see his talents up front personal. I mean, the kid can play, and I know he's doing amazing things down in Florida right now. So, I mean, how do you replace that? Like I said, I think, like I said earlier, I think Adam Barnett has the most to gain, because if he can replace him and get that defensive line humming, I mean, it's going to be a really good Pine Richland team.
For sure. And, I think Pine Richland, it just got to keep the main thing all year.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get too high, can't get too low. You're the favorite, and you were the favorite last year, but you see how much weighs on you being the favorite, having all the attention, having all the news around you. I don't care what anyone says. That weighs you down sometimes.
No, absolutely. I think that's tough, especially I think they have a pretty young team. So just not getting caught up in the headlines, not getting caught up in the hype, not getting caught up on the noise is what I used to tell the players. You know what I mean? It's all just noise. You know, we take compliments the same way that we take insults. You know what I mean? You that's your opinion of me now and the way that you see me. And I think Coach LaDon's going to do a good job of keeping those guys humble. I mean, there's a reason that he's one of the best coaches that we have here in the WPIAL right now. So he does a good job of that, and that front seven can come and show up week in and week out. I think they're going to find themselves in the WPIAL championship.
Let's talk about the team that got the #1 running back in the world. Forget the country. The United States is the best football in the world. So we got the #1 running back in the world here in the WPIAL. McKee Sports, Keemon Spell. We also have 4-star SEC commit headed to South Carolina, Javian Robinson. You talked about some big boys up front. Makai Daniels is going to be a piece. McKee Sport. They get it done?
Yeah, I think they have a great chance of getting it done. I'm a big play action guy. I love having a great big wide receiver and a really good running back. And that's just the running back that we know about. I heard they got another one coming up kind of soon who's probably going to get some carries. And like I said, they have the front five to be able to get stuff done, and I think a defense that's going to be very physical. So I think just the way that you can manipulate the defense with the players that they have, I think we know that's their strength. My question doesn't come down to a player or a skill group. It comes down to the playbook.
Yeah.
Do they stay in that old school style of play, or do they start to spread it out a little bit, jump into I formation, maybe even see some pistol, just to be able to do more with their pieces? You know what I mean? I think Javian Robinson deserves to have a 50-catch season. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta use
that kid. Yeah, I mean, that's a kid I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm in that offensive film room, if I'm in that offensive room, I'm saying this kid gets 4 shots a game, and we see what happens with it.
I'm putting him on reverses. I'm putting him in screens. I'm getting him the damn ball.
Absolutely. So I think just getting him the ball, and like I said, I mean, you can also put Keemon in the slot or put him on the opposite side of the field. There's so much you can do to disrupt the defense and make them kind of pick their poison. And again, like I had said earlier with Coach Novak, it really comes down to who do we want to tackle, and who do we want tackling Javian Robinson? Who do we want tackling Keemon Spell? And you find that guy week in and week out. I think you have a solution for success.
Yeah, McKee Sport, for me, they got to get it done. The one thing Keemon doesn't have under his belt is a WPIAL championship. And you could tell, I was out there. I spent some time with him in June. We spent the whole night with him. And that's all the kid wants. And that kid's a machine. When he's running the ball and he's healthy, he's the best player in the country, in my opinion. He's the biggest game changer in the country. The fact that he was doing what he's been doing, running the offense he's been running. I mean, he's 2 yards lined up behind the quarterback. Imagine him on a 6-yard, running start.
Yeah.
So, Keemon Spell, for me, I think he leads McKee Sport all the way this year. 3A, Avonworth. They got a little dynasty heading over there. And I think it's finally the right time to talk about this. Quarterback transfer, St. Francis's. Mason Mosley is now at Avonworth. He's in a camp, enrolled, and he will be the quarterback, it's looking like. So how you feeling about the Avonworth analytics?
I love that for Mosley. The kid works hard. I got a chance to see him up close and personal a couple times, and just the way he works, the kids love him, and I think he's just going to be a terrific leader there, and he has a great program that he's walking into there. Returning-wise, of course, they have Romello Blanchard. I'm excited to see what Ben Butzko does this year and Noah Neese can do with that front five. Can they go and replace the big guy Peter Bonnet from last year? Can't forget about Jones and Velaserio offensively. I think my question again is, and I'm going to repeat it, is can Butzko and Noah Neese replace Peter Bonnet and what that front five did? I know we spoke earlier.
Bonnet was big.
Yeah, I think we spoke earlier about Hopewell struggling with the up front. And I think that's the big question mark for me in Avonworth is, do they have guys to replace the line that they have last year to play at the level that they did last year? Championship outlook, I'm curious if they'll make it. I'm curious if they'll make it this year. I think that they do have some good competition against them this year, and it's going to be a tough road ahead. I don't think it's going to be as much of a cakewalk as it was last year. I know the boys at Propel are fired up to get after them, and I know the last thing Gabe Jenkins wants to do is graduate from there without beating those guys. So I think it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, man, I think Avonworth, just what Duke Joncourt's got going and what he's built, the culture established, they got the whole community every Friday night over there. I mean, Avonworth right now is the clear-cut favorite for me. Until someone takes them down, I just can't see it any other way.
I'm just curious, though, have we forgot about Aliquippa?
Avonworth did beat Aliquippa last year.
I understand, but at the end of the day, I think we know what Mike Warfield can do.
It's a different game in the playoffs.
I know what Mike Warfield. We know what Mike Warfield can do year in and year out. We can't forget that they were the WPIAL champions last year in 4A, I believe. So they're moving back down to 3A, and we can't forget about them. From what I'm hearing, I heard they got a big big line coming up on both sides of the ball that I'm excited to see play some football. So let's not forget about Aliquippa at all.
Well, people don't understand their youth programs are on go every year. Some of the best youth football you'll find. They take it serious out there the same way that they do in the city. It's like at an Aliquippa, and you see Aliquippa playing the city teams.
Absolutely.
They got sick of, I don't know what happened, but there were some things, but they're not playing the Beaver County leagues no more, so they shifted down to the city.
Yeah.
It's the same type of intensity.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, 2A. I got Seton LaSalle, but Bishop Canavan's on their heels. How do you feel about Seton LaSalle being the favorite?
I like Seton LaSalle being the favorite, especially from a line perspective. I think they have a really good running back, and I think the whole offensive line is back from the championship
Yeah,
team.
they are.
I think the big thing with the whole offensive line being back, and I can attest to this, just playing in the WPIAL Championship, is the lights aren't going to get in their eyes. You know what I mean? When they get in the big game, they're going to know how to handle themselves. They've all been there before. They've all done it before. I think the addition of Roman Levy in the playoffs is just going to be that much bigger for them. I think he's one of the better offensive linemen in the WPIAL this year. Of course, we got Kai Jones coming back, Elijah Hickman. I think my question for them is going to be the defensive line. I know they got Malachi Patterson. I know they got Landon France. But can those two give the production that Will Martin and my man Aaron Laritz gave them last year? I wouldn't be surprised, not that I've heard anything, but just from the things I've seen him do, I wouldn't be surprised to see Elijah Hickman off the edge.
I was going to say, that might happen.
He has a chance to be one of the best edge rushers in the WPIAL. I'm not just saying that because he's Aaron Donald's nephew. I've seen him do it in person. I've seen him do it live. He would have been one of the better guys in the nation if he would have played in the offseason as 5v5 this year. I mean, the kid's strong, the kid's fast. He enjoys playing football. You know what I mean? I think he has a little bit different personality than his uncles do, but he's still one heck of a football player, and I think he's going to have a lot to say about it. So I think Seton definitely is still a favorite, and for them, I think it is win it all and continue to fight for the big game.
I'm probably going to take a little bit of slack for this, but with Seton LaSalle, I think they need to be more dimensional offensively. It becomes too it's the same thing over and over. I think they got to figure out a way to break the field back open the same way that they had Khalil. When they had Khalil, they were putting things over the top. I mean, I guess it's the quarterback position, that the situation they're in with Kai Jones at quarterback. He's really focused on playing the defensive back position. Personally speaking, I know I might get some slack for this, but I think they got to get a guy in there that's just a quarterback.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I think it makes it even harder with Kai Jones in there, and kind of like I said earlier with Coach Novak, it makes it really hard to add new plays because you have to see what you can do. Again, we cannot forget that we're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-old boys, sometimes 15 and 14-year-old boys who their attention span isn't as long as it used to be, how they digest plays, and you're going to see different fronts, you're going to see different slants, and to be able to get all that in the time allotted in a week's time is a little tough. So you got to do what you're best at. I think they have the athletes to do so. You got Kymar Freeman back there carrying the ball, and like I said, I'm always going to rely on that front five, and I think that I would love to see them add maybe a couple more runs than they're used to. I think they have the experience up front to be able to do so. Maybe run a couple more runs than most teams are doing. From outside zone to trap to powers to wide zone. I mean, you can get screens in there, pin and pull. I think there's a lot of stuff you can do with that line with those pieces in there. You got Ray Piagesi, Landon France, two really fast tackles. I think Roman Levy can do anything that you ask him to. So if they're going to do that, I think it comes in the run game. And then quarterback-wise, you got to keep it simple for Kai Jones. I mean, simple passing concepts, kind of let him know what he's seeing, stuff like that. And as teams start to throw different coverages at him, it gets a little tougher for him. And like you said, he's kind of more focused on the defensive side of the ball. But playing on the defensive side of the ball can help him quarterback-wise as long as he uses it the right way, understanding what his assignment on the defense, the things he likes to see, the things he doesn't like to see, and kind of just using that in reverse as offense.
100%. And then 1A, the Clairton Bears, the state champions. They lose some talent. A lot of seniors they lose, but Brandon Murphy.
Love that kid. Love that kid. One of my favorite defensive back. And I'm going to just go on record to say, so we can just remember this all year, I'm never going against Clairton again. I went against Clairton last year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
People let me have it all through social media. I had an older lady walk up to me at the gas station one day, I kid you not, and just told me I was the clown who picked Clairton. It was all love and fun and joking games, but that fan base is pretty brutal. So, I'm definitely taking the Clairton Bears. I like Dakota Harris a lot up front in the nose guard position.
Yeah.
He's going to play some really good offensive linemen. I'm kind of looking for some more offensive linemen out of them. But like I said, Brandon Murphy, I mean, I think he's one of the best players that we have here in the WPIAL. I like Jace Booker a lot as well, playing D-back. So they always have plays. They always have players. There's always a really gritty team. Coach Wade does an amazing job coaching those guys. So I'm taking the Clarendon Bears. Don't ask me about 1A again.
Yeah, I think 1A is in a similar situation as 6A, but I think there's a little bit more of an opportunity for a Jeanette or someone to sneak in. We almost saw Laurel knock off Clareton last year. People don't realize if they just snap the ball and they run it to the center of the field and go down for a field goal, Laurel might be the WPIAL champions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They fumbled the ball. I think it was like on the 25-yard line, on Clareton's 25-yard line. I mean, that could have been a totally different game. So I think 1A, there's a little bit smaller of a gap for other teams to come in.
I'm not going to let you skip the City League.
We're going to get right into that. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. Look, we're in Western Pennsylvania. Just because it's not the WPIAL, we still got to talk about the City League.
I'm not going to let us forget about the City League.
You know, when I started this, honestly, I was big on we got to keep the City League involved in the conversation. You remember me telling you that. So we're going to have about a 10-minute conversation about the state of the City League. Byron, I'm going to let you open it up.
I think right now, because of last year, the favorites are USO. We're talking about Amir Pollard, Milan Stanford, Demir Adir, the quarterback. I'm sorry if I messed your name up again. Fix me. We got the big guy, Dion Williams, up front, clocking in at, 6'7", 460 pounds. You got a little brother, Dion Williams, as well, about 6'4", 215 pounds, coming off the edge. Those are guys that we want to see, and I think Westinghouse going to have a lot to see about that. I think their strength is definitely going to be their skill. And the question is going to be, for me, is can they replace Damari Christmas? He was one of the best offensive and arguably defensive linemen in the City League last year. With his transferring to Pittsburgh Central Catholic, can USO hold Westinghouse Bulldogs off of that City League championship?
You know, and I believe the same thing, but I think Westinghouse has a bad taste in their mouth.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time since they didn't win the city chip. I mean, they got Pinckney coming off the edge. They got Blanchard, and I think he's underrated, personally.
Absolutely.
I think you put a guy like Blanchard in the WPIAL, I think he might have some Power 4 offers.
I don't think it's too late for him to get some Power 4 offers. I think we got some things coming up for him, and he's one of the best guys in the WPIAL, in the Western Pennsylvania, in the state. I mean, whatever you want to call it. I mean, talking about a 4.5, 40 off the edge. One of the strongest guys out there. I mean, the kid can play. Again, another guy I've seen compete on the national level, and people had a hard time blocking him. 4 stars, 5 stars, you name it. I mean, the kid can play some football.
Yeah, and then you got a guy like Jordy Reed, been around for a long time, a lot of championships. He's just a very fundamentally sound player. And, you know, Westinghouse is always fundamentally sound on the back end of that defense, and they always got guys that could get after the quarterback.
Absolutely. I think another year Zaza in the offense as
I think
well.
he's going
to
to
be
flourish.
a big deal for them, and to be able to kind of control that. They also have one of the best offensive lines coming up, and you guys will see on my list as they come through. They got some guys that I don't know if you guys know about, and I'm excited to see. I think Amont Struthers will do something on both sides of the ball. I know Pinckney will be playing on both sides of the ball. That Hickory game, I think, is going to be a really fun one to watch, so I'm excited to see that come.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, the rest of the City League, I kind of say it like this every year. You kind of just got to watch to see what happens. You know, we know the Westinghouse, the USOs, but we kind of just got to see how the games play out. High school football is a crazy thing to predict preseason, I always say.
Absolutely.
Because the turnover rate, the people that graduate, the people in and out, you really got to see what goes on the field, and that's when we can make some fair assessments. Let's take about 10 minutes, and let's get into your list here. Offensive lineman list, defensive lineman top 5.
I'm giving you guys my top 5. I think it looks a little different than what the most of guys looks like. I did do a top 20 offensive and defensive line. I still am working on 6 through 20. I've even rearranged some guys. I had to move some guys in the top 5 earlier today. Just looking at some film, some names that haven't been out there. Of course, this is all from your game film, what we've seen you do in person, what we've seen you do over the camp circuit, and of course, 2027. A lot of this is based on game film. My number 1, I think, is a lot different than most. I'm taking John Sasick, center out of Pittsburgh Central Catholic. I think when we talk about the utilization of him and the things that he can do, he can play center, he can play guard, he can play tackle. I think he's the only one in the top 5 who can play all 5 of the positions. So when you talk about where the value is there, I think he's there. I have him and Jimmy as my 1 and 2, and I think he's the only person who has the body of work that Jimmy does. You know what I mean? That you can compare that to. And when it came to the big games, when you're talking about when they played LaSalle last year, when they played St. Francis a couple years ago, Harrisburg, I mean, that's a guy who consistently showed up. He's an aggressive guy. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys, you know, if you're in a dark alleyway, that's a guy that you want to be walking around with. My number 2, then, like I spoiled a little bit, is going to be Jimmy Kalis. I think you just look at the body of work, and the kid is 6'8". He has all the tools. He has the technique. He's an athletic kid, and he's really just been around for such a long time. And I'm going to be honest. I think I may be a little biased, but I think it's just hard to hold the number one spot for so long. You know what I mean? I think he's been one of the best offensive linemen we've been talking about for the last 3 years. And I don't know how he'd play at center just because of his height, but left tackles are super important. So that's one that I'm listening to that argument for a 1 and 2. I think it's kind of whatever you like. But Jimmy Kalis is going to be my 2, and I know on an interview a couple days ago he had said he has a lot to prove, and by that I think he just means having a flawless season, showing that he's one of the best players in the nation, one of the best players in the state as far as offensive linemen go, and I think that he has a lot to prove, and I think he has an opportunity to do that this year. So I'm excited to see how he cleans that up. My number 3, Ryan Robbins. I think he's the second best athlete on this list. The film is dominant. The kid is huge. I think he's had a harder schedule. I mean, we can argue about that later than the other guys on this list as far as defensive ends that he went against and defensive linemen in the 5A level. But he's super athletic, an amazing basketball player, and I think that he's gonna rally that team to the promised land this year as far as 5A goes. And he, like I said, I can't say enough about the kid. Super aggressive, pass pro looks good, got basketball feet, one heck of a basketball player. I actually seen his basketball highlights first, and I give him a lot of credit because you don't see a lot of linemen anymore playing basketball or playing a second sport. So it was really cool to see him play another sport, and that's where that helped his recruitment a lot. I don't think kids understand that does help that. At number 4, I'm going James Halter. I think James Halter is the most athletic guy on this list. I love the things that he can do in space. From just the first time I seen him as a tight end, again, I think he has a very large body of work. I don't know if it's as big as the first 2. We can argue about, him and Ryan Robbins. Those are 2 guys that I kind of had interchangeable as well. Very aggressive kid. You can tell he's still a little bit raw with his hands, but he has the feet to make up for it. So I think he's done it at the 6A level for a very long time. And I think that's those 3, of course, are the big reason that we look at Central Catholic as the favorite for 6A. My number 5 in the 27 class is going to be Charles Butler. Another very athletic, tall tackle, 6'7" out of Bishop Canevin. I think he's the best offensive lineman in that, 2A classification.
Yeah.
In that 2A classification. Committed to Rutgers University. I got an opportunity to see him compete against some of the best 4-star, 5-star players in the country, and he definitely showed that he belonged. So he looked really well this offseason for me. I think he puts all of it together. He has Lemire Wade on the other side of the ball over at Bishop Canevin to help make sure that he's prepared on a week-in, week-out basis. And talking about 2A ball, that's a really good guy to compete against on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So I think he comes out polished, and that is my 27 top 5. Going on to defensive linemen for my 27s. Deshaun Blanchard. I'll let you say what you want. Position he plays. Is he a nickel?
Is that number 1?
That's my number 1. Is he a linebacker? Is he a nickel? I'll tell you this: he has the same responsibility the rest of you guys defensive ends have, and that is keep contained. And he does that just about better than anybody, as well as pass rush. We're talking about a guy who had 22.5 sacks last year, so I don't know what else you call him outside of a defensive lineman. Committed to Bowling Green. Again, he was a 4.5 40 guy. When he wasn't even always a football player, when he started playing football, he was one of the best boxers in the state. I don't think a lot of people know that. And the kid can just go and fly. Another kid, again, I've seen compete against some of the best kids in the country, and he gave all of them fits, 4-star, 5-star tackles, saying, "Who is that kid?" I mean, I had people tell me that I cheated because I brought a corner to the 5v5 competition, but he's a pass rusher just like anybody else. He stuffs around just like anybody else, and he is one of the strongest kids in the city league. So I think it's hard to say that he's not a number 1. My number 2 defensive line is going to be Keith Young. I think Keith Young is the best interior defensive lineman in the WPIAL period. We talk about 3 technique and the things that he can do in the run and not only the pass. One of the best pass rushers interior, if not, he's the best pass rusher interior-wise in the WPIAL. Really good in the just stuff in the run as well. Super violent kid. Ask the kids who play them. Ask the kids who go against him. I've seen him compete in the country against some of the best guys, and he was able to hold his own and prove that he belongs there. He's a kid that I think will be a late offer guy that we'll see. And see him just clean some parts of his game up. He's on a good program. He's been there for a year. He's got to pick up the culture. So I think him as my preseason number 2, it was an easy pick. Number 3 in the 27 class, and I think this is where I'll probably have some disruption as far as what I pick. I put Lemire Wade at number 3. I think he easily could have been number 2. I don't know if he's as polished as Keith Young. Still a very raw player, but he's a heck of an athlete. Probably the best athlete on this list defensively. 6'5", basketball frame, basketball feet. getting a lot better with his hands. Very hard to take care of off the edge. Very long arms. Really good on the long arm. He can ghost, he can rip. I mean, he has a lot of moves to him, and I think this is the year he really gets comfortable playing defensive end. I'm honestly surprised that UConn was able to land him, but Jason Candle does a really good job with WPIAL guys. So he's in very good hands. So that makes Lamir Wade my number 3. Number 4, Josh Silveria from Fort Cherry. And I need to start off by apologizing because I think this is one of the most underrated kids in the WPIAL right now. He's a kid that I didn't have on my list at first, and then I started looking at film, and I had his name written down. He also DM'd me, "I'm sorry that I missed you this offseason." I looked at the film, and somebody from IUP actually called me and asked me what I knew about him because I think he did really good down there. I've seen some camp clips of him, and then you turn on the film, and you can see that he's really good off the edge. Another really lanky guy, really good in the run fit. You know how Fort Cherry gets and how that program is. He's a really gritty kid that I like a lot, so that's why I put him there at my number 4. My number 5, and again, excuse me if I mess up your last name, Aris Hanoitz. There at Hopewell with Keith Young. I think Hopewell has one of the best defensive lines in the WPIAL. Super athletic kid. I got to see him move around a little bit at 7-on-7. He looks like he's one of Armstrong's favorite targets. Again, really good off the edge, really stout in the run fit. When you put him with Keith Young, he's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups, so it's going to give him the opportunity to be one of the best, not only in the WPIAL, but possibly the state. Or you're going to have to double-team him, and you're going to give Keith a lot of one-on-one matchups. So I think whoever plays Hopewell is going to have a lot of trouble, and I think that's where, we talked about earlier who we like, and I think that's a big reason why I like Hopewell. So
okay, that's the senior top 5 list.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. 2028s, we're going to do it next week. All right, this is everybody's favorite part of the show because they could tell us how stupid we are after we're wrong. And everyone loves to do that online. So let's get into it. Week 1 pick'ems. I think I got 8 of the best games I picked out just from my opinion, and I got those down. The first game I want us to pick. Central Catholic did it again. They scheduled another powerhouse, Bergen Catholic out of New Jersey, led by Oklahoma quarterback commit Trey Tagliaferri. Bergen Catholic is 21-time state champions in New Jersey. Do you think Central Catholic can knock them off?
I definitely do think Central Catholic can knock them off. A big part of that was the transfers they unfortunately lost. I think they were going to have to come in here with powerhouses. 2 big ones being on the defensive line, and Jaden Burke and Jaden Beckley and Jackson Vaughn, defensive end. I know he ended up going to classified up and went to IMG. I was really excited for this game. I mean, I got to look into it more and see who they have defensively. I was really excited for this game to just see out of the top 5. I mean, I named 3 guys that were on Central Catholic, and to see how those guys played, to see how the young guy, Elvis Bethea, played against a primetime player like Jaden Beckley, and to see how Jimmy Kalis and James Halter would handle themselves against a 5-star defensive end in Jackson Vaughn. So I'm giving it to Central. I think up front they're just going to be too much for this team, and I think that's an up front that can handle a lot of teams in the nation. And if you're not at full potential in that game, I think you're going to struggle a lot.
Coach Novak was just in the studio. He said, we used to play Newcastle all the time. Well, these 2 teams haven't played in a long, long time. It's going to be at the KDKA Kickoff Classic. First week there, down at the Wolverina. You got Newcastle heading on down to the Wolverina to take on Woodland Hills. Very interesting matchup, 4A, 5A. How do you see this one?
I'm taking Newcastle. I like Kai Cox a lot over there. They have a guy that people have been telling me I need to look out for, Swayze Rigert, I believe his name is. I hear he's a really good guy, and he can go. I think him, Marino Graham, Kai Cox kind of take over there. I think Woody's a little young. I'm curious to see how disciplined they'll be there at their home state. And I think Newcastle just wants to put themselves on the map. I know winning that game in Woodland Hills, first game of the season, will be big for them, and I think they're prepared to go this year.
So I was there yesterday, and I asked Coach, what excites you most about this 2026 season? He said the competition in our schedule. He said we made this schedule because we think, we think we're one of the top teams and we want to show it. And they believe if you're a top team, you should be playing a top schedule. And Newcastle got probably top 3 toughest schedule. Their first 5 games, they're playing all playoff teams. I mean, they got Avonworth, Propel, Woodland Hills, North Catholic. You can just go down the line. It's loaded up. And then historically, the Parkway Conference is what it is. Newcastle, they've accepted the challenge. I'll say it like that. Yet last year they broke onto the scene and surprised some people. This is a tough one for me because I know what Woodland Hills has, and this is going to be a tough team for Newcastle to beat just because I know some of their deficiencies, and Woodland Hills they're very good in some of the spots Newcastle's bad at. I guess I'll say it like that. In high school, football is all about matchups. I'm going to get killed for this, but I think Woodland Hills wins this game.
All right.
I don't know what is pulling me this way. And there's another thing. Every time I pick Newcastle, they lose.
Yeah.
So it's almost – but for me, I don't know why. Something's pulling me towards Woodland Hills winning this game. They're at home. They got the new quarterback, and I think he's gonna break on the scene this year. Malik McLeod, like I said, I think he's gonna emerge as a star over there for some reason. Something, and you know I'm a Newcastle guy, man. But for some reason, I think Woodland Hills is gonna take this game because I got them mad. I got them at 24 in the power rankings and Newcastle at 5, and they do not like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good matchup. Like I said, I think Newcastle's just coming roaring. I think they want to prove something to WPIAL, so I'm sticking with them.
I do as well. I think we know where my heart's at, but my gut, it's in a different place there. All right, this is gonna be fun. The 2A runner-up states in PIAA, excuse me, Farrell. They're gonna take on Clairton, the 1A state champions. Coach Amp versus Coach Wade.
I'm not going against Clarendon. I'm saying it again. I'm not going against Clarendon, but I will say if there is a team that's going to beat them, it's going to be Farrell. We got a chance to watch them a lot and consistently at the 7-on-7 down in the Wolverina on a yearly basis. And to bring them back to the Wolverina, I mean, those are two teams that used to get after it, used to get chippy. Great players on the offense and defensive side of the ball. I know Farrell has a pretty big offensive line coming up and some pretty good pieces of linebacker. I know that's pretty good, well ranked in the state. Sticking with Clarendon, though, I mean, again, you guys aren't going to jump on me, but I will say if there is somebody that beats them in their schedule, it is going to be Farrell. Get him, guys. Go ahead and get him. I want to see the TL lit up like it was mine. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it.
I think Farrell wins this game.
Ooh, let's get that threats going.
Let me tell you why. I think this is going to be rough. Clairton, I think early on, they lost a lot of pieces, lost a lot of seniors. I think it's going to be a bit of a new team, and I think Farrell returns. Look, Farrell loses Juju Johnson, but that Farrell defense, Seton LaSalle could not move the ball against them at all. Like, it was bad. And to me, does Clairton have a better offense than Seton LaSalle? That's how I'm looking at this. And it's tough because honestly, we're choosing between hairs here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a super close game. You know, it's tough because like this game could go either way. I just have a feeling Farrell's going to take it late. And I'm going to get killed online.
Get him, guys. Go ahead and get him.
Hey, I didn't even ask you about your 5A pick.
I'll be the first one. I might be the first one to tell you about yourself in this pick. I'll get it going. Who's next? Who's next?
Moon versus Montour.
Moon versus Montour. I'm taking Montour. I think when it comes to this Moon, I like what Moon's doing, though. I am going to start there. I do like what Moon's doing. I think the future is very bright at Moon. I think they're a little just too inexperienced right now for this Montour team. I think when we talk about, if Montour is the real deal, we're talking about, the McKee Sports, you know what I mean? We're talking about the Newcastles and teams like that they have to go up against. But I think with this Moon team, I think this team has a good bit of experience at Montour. They're good on the fronts, defensive end, Tyson Verdream's out there. I think he's a kid because of who they have on the back end. He has an opportunity to lead the WPIAL in sacks. I mean, you're either going to throw an interception or, Tyson's going to have 12 to 15 sacks this season, I think, with the way that their defense looks. Brandon Bennett at quarterback spinning it. And, again, they have some good guys up front in Jacob and Abram Kolodinsky. So I think Montour kind of beats them. I'm not going to say by a landslide. I'm going to give Montour, I think, 10 points.
So you know how teams, like these two teams play first game of the year, I think the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's bad blood. They don't like each other, and the smack talk starts in June. Moon beat the brakes off them last year. I think Montour is going to come in there with a vengeance, and I think they're going to try to prove a point. Like, look, we just smacked 5A Moon. Not smacked them, but I think that they have a chance to beat them by more than 2 touchdowns this year. And I think if they can beat Moon by more than 2 touchdowns, they're going to make a big-time statement. Because even though Moon has lost a lot of those senior leaders, they are still a stout football team.
Yeah, they are.
Defensively, the Moon Tigers arguably were the best defensive team in 5A last year.
That they were last year. I said if anybody was going to be Pine, it was going to be them, and they came close.
If they had any offense at all, I think they win that game.
Yeah, a matchup I'm excited to see is Jameer Eggleston, the young guy I spoke about earlier, and Montour's Tyson Ridgely.
That's going to be interesting.
Gets to start his season off against one of the best pass rushers in the league and one of the best defensive linemen in the league. And it could go either way. I think when you throw the run game into it, I'm curious to see what Tyson, that's a question I have for him, is how he does in the run fit. He's gained a lot of weight since last year, so that's going to help him a lot. And then can Jameer be athletic enough? And Tyson's a lot more experienced, I think, in the pass pro, so that's going to be a fun matchup to watch and hope that Moon keeps himself out of third downs.
Well, I talked about it. Hopewell's going to find out real early if they're like that or not. Hopewell versus Avonworth. Is it going to be different this time around?
Hopewell versus Avonworth. Again, I go back to my question: what can Avonworth do up front? Can Ben Busco come in and can Noah Neese come in and fill in the shoes of Peter Bonnet? I think the front that they have over there in Hopewell is going to give them a tough time, even if they did have those guys. Another guy I didn't get to talk too much about, Richard Johns off the other edge of Aris, and then of course Keith Young in the middle. Who do you double team? I think either Aris or Keith, and then who are you leaving one-on-one, and who are you leaving them one-on-one on? You know what I'm saying? I think, in my opinion, you see what Ben Busco could do. He has a couple of Division I offers. He has the length. He has the size. Aris, of course, has experience on him. You know what I mean? I think is can kind of get the best of him. And then keep Keith contained and protect your quarterback the best that you can. You see a young guy in Mobley, and the last thing you want is him in there getting his head taken off. But if there's a game where he's going to struggle and take a couple hits, we're going to see what kind of chin this guy got. And unfortunate for quarterbacks too, like that's the way we have to tell you you're tough. Like as an offensive lineman, it was enough. Like I was tough for digging people in the dirt, throwing them out of bounds. As a quarterback, got to take a couple big shots and get back up, and like nothing happened. So I think we're going to get a chance to see if he's tough early.
And as a former quarterback, we know that we're earning the respect of our teammates every time we get up, and we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest. You're right. It's a crazy thing. Quarterbacks deal with it because you guys are putting people on the ground. We're getting up off the ground, and that's how we're earning our respect.
Absolutely.
All right. I think, and I'll touch on it. I think Avonworth's too much of a well-oiled machine in the way they got running right now. I think Hopewell's going to have to improve throughout the season to get onto that level, but I think they might be able to get on that level. I think week 1's too early.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Seton LaSalle versus North Catholic. North Catholic pounded them last year. Seton LaSalle beat them 2 years ago. This is a rubber match.
I'm taking Seton. I think that offensive line at Seton, like I said, I think they're one of the best ones in the WPIAL. I'm not 100% sure on what North Catholic has, but I think it's going to be a tough game. I know they lost some pretty big pieces last year, and I know the matchup is a little skewed 2A and North Catholic 4A.
Yeah,
correct?
3A.
3A. So I think Seton wants to start the game off winning with them and showing what they can do. And if they're going to make a state championship run, it starts beating North Catholic.
Absolutely, and I agree. I think Seton LaSalle last year, Khalil left, Trey Littlejohn left. There was a lot of negative attention around them, and with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, that's tough. Dealing with that type of media attention, everything else, it was tough. I think Tim did a great job of rallying the troops halfway through that season. He kind of reconstructed that offense, and they dumbed it down. You know, not that they were asking too much out of the kids, but they realized, look, we have a heavy front, and we got the backs. Let's put it on the ground and win this. Let's take it to the WPIAL championship.
Yeah.
I do think that hurt him a little bit in the state championship, not having more of a dimensional offense.
Yeah.
But I think Seton LaSalle is back on track. Tim has them in a great place. I think they take down North Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Lebanon versus USC. New coach over at Mount Lebanon. USC is trying to just come out on top this year. How do you see that? That's an old school rivalry over there. That's a South Hills rivalry. That one cuts deep.
I think it's going to be – I take Upper St. Clair by a lot. I'm going to just leave it
He
there.
throwing the
I'm taking Upper St. Clair by a lot. I think that front five is going to be too much for Mount Lebo.
They did it last year too.
Mount Lebo does got a couple good pieces, but Ryan Robbins, I think, is going to start the season off. I think he's going to show everybody he belongs to be number one guy around, and some people say so. I may not said so today, but I think he's going to give us every reason on why he should.
I agree with you. I got Upper St. Clair in the last game. Man, I was out in North Hills last night, and they are fired up. North Hills versus North Allegheny. The rivalry is renewed. Coach Eric Kasparovich got a chance to do this.
I'm giving it to Art Walker and NA. I think over the time, this is going to be one of our favorite rivalries.
I agree.
I think it's a little too early. I mean, Art Walker is a coach. I mean, he's going to outcoach a lot of people, and him and Kasparovich have had some battles. I just think he has the roster, he has the culture, he has the experience.
He's been there,
to beat North Hills. It's a new team for Kasparovich. I think it's going to take a little bit more time to instill his culture. And I think that's where that's going to go. But I think 2-3 years, we're going to see a really good rivalry out of these two, and one of them that we like to lock in every year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with North Allegheny. I think it's too early, but look, North Hills. I was out there last night. Bo Wilcox, 2029, sophomore quarterback. He looks really good. Todd Yoakum out there, if you know anything about that. I mean, I call him a quarterback whisperer because I was watching it. Just he is so detailed to attention on what the quarterback is doing, from the footwork, from just all aspects of quarterback play. And I said to you last night, I always find Coach Kaz's practices just very interesting because it's so high level. You could see that before they run anything, they're running it on air to make sure every step, every route is to the depth that he wants it. And I think, it's going to build that program up quickly.
And one thing we're not going to do is forget about the City League. I'm going Westinghouse Hickory. Let me bring that one up for you. Hickory has a great defensive end in Dante Evans, and I'm excited to see defensive end and tight end. Has a couple of big Division I offers coming in. They have one of the best running backs in the area, in Kelvin Morrison, if I'm not mistaken.
Stud, yep.
And what they can do against the Westinghouse Bulldogs, I will be interested to see. You got Deshaun Lewis back there, a linebacker, who's going to have a lot to say about it. Again, I think they're one of the best defensive fronts up there. I'm taking the Westinghouse Bulldogs. I will be there to see it. I think Amon Struthers is the one puts his name on the map. I think redshirt Dejor Pinckney, the best defensive end in the WPIAL, best defensive lineman in the WPIAL, goes out and shows off. We talked about Deshaun Blanchard and whatnot, and can Kelvin Morrison get away from those guys. I think it's going to be an exciting game. And again, like I said, let's not forget about the City League.
Well, that's a wrap. When these games finish, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to let the Clareton Bears light me up.
Oh,
and if he's
I'll be
wrong
first
against you, hey, do it to Byron as well. Thank you for joining us today. Big thanks to Coach George Novak. My name is John Magusiak with PA Today Sports.
Coach Byron Dovales, 7 Toys Academy.
We're not back in the studio till 2 weeks after the first week wraps up. We'll be in here Monday, and that first episode that will be wrapped up to recap the first week will be dropped Thursday evening.